Thanks for making the time to see us today. We do appreciate it. Bob and I have been working with Peter as part of the crisis and home treatment team since he took the overdose last week. Part of what we do is that we've been talking about some of the issues that led to it, and we work with the families. This is part of what we call an enhanced care plan under the care programme approach. The jargon's not important. We'll leave you a leaflet outlining what you're entitled to expect, both for you and Peter separately. I think everyone's been really worried about Peter's safety.
I'm not.
What makes you say that, Peter?
I feel okay. Don't need any of this. It's just the people down the road and the... But that's not as bad as it was. You know, if people just listen to me and stuff.
Here we go again.
Darling, we are listening to you, but we can't understand what you mean.
How can we do this if you're going to be like that? You're wasting everyone's time.
Look, it was like this morning. He's saying what he feels. You don't have to keep criticising him. He's trying.
No, he's not. Not at all. You can't see. You let him get away with it.
I don't let him get away with anything. I am worried sick about what's happened. I'm worried sick. I'm trying to understand it, but you just don't help.
Once again, it's all my fault.
Yes, well, if you hadn't have been so worried about your job and you weren't avoiding him...
Geraldine, someone has to worry about paying bills and maintaining some degree of normality. Yes, I do have to worry about work, but that doesn't mean I'm avoiding other things. Whereas you...
Are you worried about Peter?
It's his mother. She's always worrying.
What is it you are worried about, Geraldine?
Well, it's like that night. He came in, he didn't say anything. He just went upstairs and took the tablets. I just didn't know it was going to happen.
Peter, can you tell your mum why you didn't say anything?
I didn't want to upset her.
You see what I mean? How idiotic is that? Can't you imagine what it would have been like for her if she'd walked in and found you dead? It was bad enough as she found you unconscious and all that other thing.
Yeah, but it didn't happen, did it?
Peter, it did happen. You swallowed all those tablets, you could have died. And you still haven't told us why. Think. Think what it would have done to your mother.
How would you have felt?
She would have been devastated.
Looking at this from our perspective, and I don't want to speak for you, Bob, but it does seem that what happened has affected everybody in very different ways, as well as obviously being very upsetting for all of you. We do want to talk about some of that today. But before we push on too far, it might be helpful if we explain how we like to structure these sessions so that you know what to expect.
Yeah, but I don't really need any sessions.
Pete, you agreed to this, and I've taken the afternoon off to be here. I think we should just listen to what Moira has to say.
Is that okay with you, Peter?
Suppose so.
What we try to do is allow the family to talk about their experience as a family of Peter's psychosis. I know that Dr. Matthews explained some of her views about what's been happening for Peter over the last few months. Okay? We realise that this can be really upsetting. What we try to do is to look at how and why it happened, but also to help you find ways to cope if things become difficult again in the future.
Look, we're not some kind of crisis family. I know this has happened, but Peter has been, well, whatever he's been for a few years now, but it hasn't really affected us.
You know, you said something about being a family or something. Well, Joan's not here, is she? Nor's Brendan.
Yes, well, we know that, but Joan's just started university and it's a long way back here from Edinburgh. We just thought it would, you know, she should get settled and then perhaps come back for a later appointment, if there are any.
And Brendan has to be at work today.
It's just like you, Dad.
He's a teacher. You know he can't just leave his class, Peter. Please don't make this any more difficult than it is.
We believe that some of the problems you will be experiencing now may be due to Peter's psychosis, since some of the health problems can cause families a lot of stress. If we can share in what we know already, we hope our understanding of this type of work, through working with families who have had similar problems, can be beneficial. So that's the structure of the session we hope to cover in this type of work, as well as the issue we thought would be important to cover today.
It sounds useful.
It's very helpful. Thank you.
Is that okay with you, Peter?
I'm not sure what you think, Bob, but before we finish, it might be helpful if we look at ways that Brian and Geraldine can feel more confident that Peter's going to be safe over the next 4 to 5 days.
Absolutely. I've noticed that this has come up as an issue throughout the day, even though we've been talking about different things.
Yeah, but I don't get that. You keep saying I have this illness or something, but I feel fine. It's not my fault. These people keep doing things and I get these messages. All I want is for there to be peace and for this war to stop. Why's the government trying to stop me from getting that?
No one's sending you messages and there are no conspiracies, Peter. You need to move on from all that.
I think what Bob's referring to is when you took the overdose, Peter. I know you discussed some of this with Sue. I think you've met her. She's the nurse that works with Peter on a day-to-day basis. But I think it might be really helpful if we talk about some of those things here, because it seems very clear to me that your mum and dad are very worried that it might happen again.
I don't really want to talk about it. And I don't think my dad does either.
But, Peter...
What is it you want to say, Geraldine?
I can't.
I wasn't thinking clearly. I made a mistake. It won't happen again.
What can you and your parents do that would help prevent it from happening again, but that would also make them feel confident that you're going to be safe? I know you talked about some of these things with Sue. That's helpful, Brian. And you've been able to tell us a lot about how traumatic this has been for Geraldine. I'm still wondering about you, though.
I just can't get it. He always used to tell me everything. Do you remember? He used to come everywhere with me. Fishing, cycling, swimming. If only he'd said something to me. Why didn't he?
Is that a question that you're asking Peter?
Yes. Why didn't you?
I didn't want them to start getting at you.
Peter, it's all very well, but what can we do to prevent this happening again? The nurses are right. We're both very worried. We don't know what to do anymore. And it's no good asking about Joan because she isn't here.
I think there are more tablets in my room.
Well, that's helpful to know. Thank you. Maybe when we finish, you and one of your parents could go and get them?
Were you thinking about taking them?
No.
What about what your mum was just saying?
What?
Pete, what are we going to do now? What can we do that would help you?
I just need there to be peace. Sometimes I like it when I just sit with you and I don't have to speak. And the television. Sometimes I don't like it when it's on. That's why I leave the room. Could you give me something to make me sleep? I can't sleep.
You used to sleep so well, Pete.
Yes, we know that, love. But we need to think about now.
I'm trying to think, but this whole thing is just so bizarre.
You want to say something, Peter?
It's this. It's the arguing.
So let's pull this together. What you've said helps, Peter, is being with your parents, but not having to speak and not having the TV on. And that sometimes when they get very concerned about you and things can get heated, you find that very difficult. Have I got this right?
Well, what about those tablets that were prescribed for you, Pete? Because the doctor said they would help you sleep, but you've missed a couple of doses. I know you don't like them, and you know I don't like them either, but I think you need them, son. It would help us think things are on the right track.
Yes, your dad's right. I noticed a difference in those first few days.
What did you notice?
He was calmer. I could tell he was more relaxed than he'd been in ages. And he was talking more. And I think you slept better as well, didn't you?
And how did that affect you and Brian?
Well, Brian had been in late the past few nights because of his work, but I think we both felt slightly less on edge.
So you notice more things about Peter when he's relaxed. What is it you notice about him when he's not so well?
He spends a lot of time in his room. He's very restless, you know. I can hear him pacing up and down. And sometimes I can hear... Peter, I can hear you crying sometimes, don't I? I've asked you about it, but you haven't been able to say anything.
And he drinks a lot. I used to think it was just, well, you know. But with what's come to light, I can see that he's not been well. It's another indication.
He keeps asking about the family up the road. They're American. I don't know what he thinks about them. But he worries about them. Well, he worries about what they're doing, and he thinks they're watching him.
And there's this thing with Joan. Wanting to see her, ringing her up.
So if you see those things happening, you might feel more concerned about Peter's safety.
Yes. But, Pete, what's this about the TV? You used to enjoy watching it with us.
Look, you don't need to worry about that. It's like Maurice said, we need to look at what's happening now.
They send me messages. That worries me. I understand what they are. That's why I don't like the TV.
So now that you've heard that your parents notice things when you're feeling stressed, do you think it might be easier for you to say something in the future?
Not really. I don't know.
Do you feel this conversation has helped?
Maybe.
Does it make you feel any safer?
I want it to.
How about you?
The fact that I know a bit more about what's going on helps me, yes.
I just wish it hadn't happened. It's not fair on Peter. He doesn't deserve this.
Well, we can't pretend that it's not difficult. And as we said at the beginning of the session, this is going to be a very upsetting experience for everyone. Bob and I will be back next week, and you can call us or Sue or anyone on the team if you feel that you need to. I think this has been really helpful.
Yes, I know it can sound trite, but I would like to really thank the three of you for sharing your experiences with us.